If you have started and quit a workout routine more than once in your life, I want you to understand something right now, before this video goes any further. You did not quit because you were lazy, you did not quit because you lacked discipline, and you did not quit because fitness just isn't for you. You quit because your brain was doing exactly what 300,000 years of human evolution designed it to do. And until you understand the specific neurological mechanism behind that quitting, you will start and quit again and again in an endless cycle that feels like a personal failure, but is actually a biological certainty. The brain trick I'm talking about has a name in neuroscience. It is called the effort-based decision-making system, and it operates through a structure in your brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, which is constantly and unconsciously calculating the ratio between the effort a behavior requires and the reward that behavior is likely to deliver. And when that ratio tips too far toward effort and too far away from immediate reward, your brain doesn't politely suggest you take a break. It generates feelings of resistance, fatigue, dread, and demotivation that feel completely physical and completely real, but are in significant part neurologically constructed signals designed to redirect your behavior towards something with a better immediate effort to reward ratio. And in the modern world, that something is almost always your phone, your couch, or any other source of instant dopamine that your ancient brain recognizes as a dramatically better deal than 45 minutes of physical discomfort with a reward, a better body that won't arrive for months. This is the fundamental mismatch that makes exercise one of the hardest behaviors for the human brain to sustain. The effort is immediate, intense, and guaranteed, while the reward is delayed, uncertain, and invisible in the short term. And evolutionary psychologists call this temporal discounting. Your brain systematically devalues rewards that exist in the future and overvalues rewards available right now. And a landmark study from Harvard by Samuel McClure and colleagues using fMRI brain imaging showed that immediate rewards activate the limbic system, the emotional, impulsive, ancient part of your brain, while future rewards activate the prefrontal cortex, the rational planning, modern part. And when these two systems compete for behavioral control, the limbic system wins the vast majority of the time because it is faster, louder, and evolutionarily older, which is why you can go to bed completely committed to your 6 a.m. workout and wake up and genuinely not want to do it because the you who went to sleep was operating from prefrontal cortex planning mode, and the you who woke up is being run by a limbic system that is calculating effort to reward ratio in real time and finding the workout to be a terrible deal. The second brain mechanism driving your quitting is called dopamine depletion, and it explains specifically why you always quit at the same point in the cycle, typically somewhere between week 2 and week 6, because in the very beginning of a new workout routine, everything is novel. Your brain is releasing dopamine not just in response to the training, but in response to the novelty itself. The new gym, the new program, the new identity you're building. And novelty is one of the most powerful dopamine triggers in the human neurological system. But as the weeks pass, the novelty wears off. The dopamine response to simply showing up decreases because your brain has now categorized the gym as familiar rather than novel. And suddenly, the same workout that felt exciting in week 1 feels like a chore in week 4. And you interpret this shift in feeling as evidence that your motivation is gone, that the program isn't working. or that you've somehow lost your passion for fitness. When in reality, what happened is completely neurochemical and completely predictable. Your tonic dopamine baseline, which is the background level of dopamine that determines your baseline motivation and drive, has not yet been raised by the habit itself, because the habit hasn't been practiced long enough to create the neural pathway consolidation that makes behaviors feel automatic and internally rewarding rather than effortful and externally motivated. Research by Anne Graybiel at MIT on habit formation and the basal ganglia shows that when a behavior is repeated consistently enough, the brain begins to chunk it, compressing the neural sequence required to execute the behavior from a complex series of conscious decisions into a single automated routine stored in the basal ganglia, which is the part of your brain responsible for habitual behavior. And once a behavior is chunked in the basal ganglia, it requires dramatically less prefrontal cortex involvement to initiate and execute, meaning it stops feeling like a decision and starts feeling like just something you do, like brushing your teeth. But this chunking process requires approximately 60 to 90 days of consistent repetition before it reaches the level of automaticity that makes the behavior genuinely self-sustaining. And most people quit at week 3 or 4, which is precisely the neurological valley between the initial dopamine novelty rush wearing off and the basal ganglia automaticity kicking in, meaning they quit at the exact moment when pushing through would have finally started to feel easier rather than harder. The practical solution to all of this neuroscience is not more willpower, not more motivational videos, not a better program. It is environmental design and reward restructuring. And here is exactly what that means. Environmental design comes from behavioral economist Richard Thaler's concept of choice architecture. The idea that the options your environment makes easiest are the options your brain will default to. And if your gym bag is unpacked, your workout clothes are in a drawer, your gym requires a 20-minute drive, and your couch and phone are immediately accessible, your environment is architecturally designed to produce quitting because it has made quitting the path of least resistance and training the path of maximum friction. So you must physically redesign your environment to reverse this. Sleep in your gym clothes if you train in the morning. Put your phone in a different room. Have your pre-workout or coffee already prepared the night before. Choose a gym close enough that the commute is not a decision point, and remove every piece of environmental friction between you and starting your workout, because research by Wendy Wood at USC on habit formation shows that 43% of daily behaviors are performed not out of conscious decision, but out of environmental context, meaning the context you build will eventually produce the behavior automatically without requiring any motivational input from you at all. Reward restructuring addresses the temporal discounting problem by collapsing the gap between effort and reward. Instead of waiting months for a visible physique change to reward your training behavior, you must create immediate rewards that are delivered at the moment of workout completion. And these don't need to be elaborate. A specific podcast or music playlist you only allow yourself to listen to during workouts. A meal or snack you genuinely look forward to that you only have on training days. A simple tracking system where you mark each completed workout and watch the streak grow. Because research on operant conditioning shows that visible streaks activate the same reward circuitry as the behavior they track. And over time, your brain begins to associate the workout itself with the immediate reward rather than only with the distant physical result, gradually rebuilding The effort to reward ratio that the anterior cingulate cortex uses to decide whether to generate motivation or resistance. You didn't quit because you're broken, you quit because your brain is running ancient survival software in a modern environment it was never designed for. And now that you understand the anterior cingulate cortex's effort-reward calculation, the temporal discounting of future rewards, the dopamine novelty cliff at week 2 to 6, the basal ganglia chunking process that requires 60 to 90 days to create automaticity, and the power of environmental design and immediate reward restructuring to bridge the gap. You have something that no amount of motivation or discipline could ever give you, which is a mechanical understanding of why you quit and a systematic method for making quitting neurologically harder than continuing. And that understanding is the only thing that has ever made the difference between the person who tried fitness for a few months and the person who made it a permanent part of who they are.